Hi there. Today, vocoding. What it is, how to do it, and some actual demos by me. I love vocoding. I have a mic permanently attached to my Kronos, and I noodle with vocoding regularly. I've been a crazy vocoding keyboardist for a long time. If you've been around synthesizers for any length of time, you've heard of vocoding. Perhaps you've probably even done it. If you're familiar with vocoding, there won't be anything of value in this video, so save your time and click away. It's a basic intro. Most people think of vocoding as taking a human voice and making it sound electronic. For example, the opening line in the song Mr. Roboto by Styx, and lots of other songs too. Vocoding was very popular during the disco era. I believe the voice of the original Cylons from Battlestar Galactica was vocoded using an ARP 2500. Often, when sound designers need to create a scary or alien voice, they'll try vocoding. But vocoding can do a lot more for you, especially if you get creative. Which brings us to, what is vocoding? I'm going to keep this simple and eliminate as much of the technobabble as possible. Vocoding has two major components, a carrier and a modulator. In what I would call traditional vocoding, the carrier is supplied by a synthesizer, and it can be as simple as a buzzy, sawtooth tone. The modulator would be a human voice, such as you or me talking, singing, or humming. If that's still too techno for you, try this. I have a big lump of modeling clay. The clay is my carrier. It looks like a big lump of clay. I poke my fingers into the clay. My fingers are the modulator. The clay is the carrier, and it's shaped by my fingers. So the clay takes on the characteristics of my fingers, but it's also still clay. Similarly, you can modulate the synth carrier with your voice modulator such that the synth sound takes on the properties of your voice and sounds electronic. Vocoder specs often list how many bands a vocoder has. It could be 8, 12, 16, 32 or more. Once again, without getting too technical, the range of frequencies that the vocoder can create from low to high are divided into segments called bands. Generally, the more frequency bands a vocoder has, the more detailed the output of the vocoder can be. Think of it like video resolution. With more pixels, you usually get a clearer picture and a more recognizable picture. With more frequency bands, you get a more recognizable sound. This is very important when vocoding speech or for a singing voice, as more bands generally make the words more intelligible, meaning you can understand what the person is saying or singing. Sometimes you don't want the audience to understand what is being said or sung. So if you have a vocoder with an adjustable number of bands, you can reduce the number of bands until you get the sound you want. Often, if you use too many bands, it doesn't sound processed enough. If you use too few bands, you can't understand what the person is saying or singing. It's up to you to decide what sound character you're going for. Another parameter you may see on a vocoder allows a portion of the modulator signal to pass through without being affected. In my traditional example, that would be a human voice. The intent here is to increase the intelligibility of what is being said or sung. Sometimes this works, other times it ruins the effect. You may find that on a vocoder with too few bands, you have to allow a lot of the modulator to pass through unaffected for the voice to be intelligible. This can cause the output of the vocoder to lose the electronic quality that you wanted in the first place. It can be a balancing game, but once you have created some presets, you'll have it at your fingertips. The ideal is to have a vocoder with a large number of bands, and that number of bands is adjustable so you can tailor the sound characteristics. You might ask yourself, what can I vocode? Anything that is a sound source can be vocoded. The results may or may not be what you want or like, but it's all part of experimenting with a vocoder. Typical instruments people like to vocode include voice, drums and percussion, bass and guitar. Want your drums or guitars to talk? Use them as carriers and modulate them with your voice. Want your voice to take on the characteristics of a cello? Use your voice as the carrier and modulate it with a cello. Sometimes going one way or the other doesn't seem to make a lot of difference. Other times it does. What I mean by this is modulating a cello with a voice or modulating a voice with a cello. A few other things. You're going to use a keyboard to play the notes. That is, the pitches you want to hear. When you're doodling around like I will be in a moment, that works fine. When you're doing some intricate vocoder production in the studio for score, pop, hip-hop, whatever you like, you can have your DAW play the notes for you while you experiment on a mic with what you want to sing or say. Once you know what you want to sing or say, you can record that as a modulator track into your DAW. Then you can slice and dice the audio, edit positions of the MIDI notes, and feed both the MIDI notes and modulator track to your vocoder so that everything syncs perfectly. Hopefully you followed that and see the possibilities. The idea for this episode was for it to be an intro to vocoding, and that's a little more advanced. So if it sounded a little bit like blah, 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 that's okay. Just know that with a DAW and a vocoder, you can create some very interesting tracks for cues and songs. It's important to know that when you have the vocoding set to 100% effect, you won't hear any output unless the modulator is making sound and you are triggering the keyboard. Before I give you some demos, you should also note that to a degree, I can control the volume by singing louder or softer. I could also assign that to a MIDI controller. To some degree, I can control the high frequency content or brightness by closing my mouth or opening it more. I could also just send some controller data to the carrier signal to change the frequency, the resonance, and any and all types of parameters. That's also true of the modulator. There are endless possibilities, so you should experiment. Have fun with it. Time to do a little vocoding. I'll be doing traditional vocoding, using synth sounds in the Kronos and modulating them with my voice. I want to do that because it's instantly recognizable. Understand that because the Kronos is a Rompler and has a huge sound set, it's easy to set up vocoding with any sound that is in the keyboard and then modulate it with my voice. Here we go. Okay, I think we're just about ready to give some vocoding a try. I've set up a few possible scenarios, and for some of the stuff I'm just gonna wing it, and hopefully it'll be pretty decent. From time to time, I'm probably just gonna have to cough, but I'll mute that out. Don't have a very long cable here, so that's problematic. Alrighty, first things.
Chicken, fight like a robot. The Galactica is getting away. Should we pursue Supreme Commander? No. But I want to pursue. Can I pursue? No. Be a good Cylon and go to your room. By your command.
Okay, remembering we're using a synth sound on the Kronos, and because of that, I can edit it in all kinds of ways. I can change the resonance, the cutoff frequency, the envelope for the filter, the envelope for the amplifier. I'm not going to do any of that, but I want you to be aware that that's all possible. I think now they use a Mooger Fooger. I used to watch Doctor Who as a kid. It used to scare the heck out of me. Let's see, what's next up? Something pretty. Okay. Pretty good. Some bad jazz, maybe. All right. Some old-time disco. Got to do a little bit of that. Let's try this, see if this sound works. Try a different sound. Try this one. A little bit of harmony. All right. What else? For some reason, foreign words just sound great. Maybe it's because I'm a native English speaker, but French, Italian, Spanish, Japanese. Obviously, I can't do the Styx song, Mr. Roboto, because that would be a violation of copyright, but we can have a little fun. Even if you don't know I'm just asking for the bathroom, it still sounds pretty good. Let's see, what else do we have? I don't know. I'm sure people that are Japanese and French are going, oh no. All right, let's see. Let's try a bass line, and then maybe that's all of the bad playing we can have for one day. Let's see. So I love Let's Hear It for the Boy, and obviously the bass line for Billie Jean is a great one, but I can't play those, so I'll just have to play something. Just for fun now, I'll do some random stuff. I remember one thing I wanted to do. I'm mostly using synth sounds, but now I'm going to switch to a choir. Now it'd be great if it sounded like 50 Jeffies all singing in a choir, sopranos, altos, tenors, and basses, but it won't. What it's going to sound like is not that, because it's a composite sound, but at least we can make our choir talk. And there's word builders and things like East West in their Hollywood choirs, which I own. But now I can make this talk in a different way. Is it as good? No, because it doesn't really sound so much like a choir anymore. It becomes electronic, but it's still pretty cool. See what we can do. Good movie riff. It's not so good on that one. All right, I think it's time to turn it back to Jeffy.
By your command, document.
Hopefully that sounded pretty decent. Truly, I've only scraped the surface on what's possible. It's up to you and your creativity. And I don't doubt that you'll come up with something great. I'm using a Korg Kronos X88, but there are plenty of synths out there that include vocoders. I also have a WaveStation AD that has a vocoder, and it's fine. It's 30-year-old technology. You can use a plug-in vocoder in your DAW and have a lot of fun. Some of them are pretty good, and the cost of purchase is often less than the hardware. Setting them up in the DAW can be a little tricky, but I'm sure you'll figure it out. I don't own it, but I have used the Waves Morphoder vocoder. It's pretty basic, but it's fun and it sounds good. Hopefully I haven't wasted your time. Take care, and I'll be back in another episode soon.